So we're going to mute everybody. And Sarah, it's really, I don't need to introduce Sarah. I did last week. Miller, I'm the president of Women's League. We are thrilled to offer all of these opportunities for our women and our male friends as well. We have some readings every day at 1 o'clock with Kaddish and Mishabera. We have courses on film and classes on Mishnah. And the list is longer every week. So the fact that all of you have joined this poetry group is so exciting. And I know Sarah's thrilled, and we thank her so much for doing this. Sarah Stern, our new director of communication and social media. And I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. Thank you. And nice to see everybody 1 week later. It's been a great week, and that's a strange thing to say right now, but I've been getting these poems, and they've been just making me very happy that people are doing something positive. And I wanted to wish everyone a happy Poem in Your Pocket Day. Today's the day. You're supposed to keep a poem in your pocket that inspires you, and they're doing this all across the country. So we've got our workshop. We've got more than one poem. So the schedule for our hour is I wanted to finish our packet and then go through the poems that folks have sent to me, and also to hear poems that you've written that I don't have a copy of, but we can listen to it. So I want to be sure we have enough time for everything. So I'm going to share my screen, and we have 4 more poems in the packet, and this one is from Edward Hirsch. To give you a little background about him, he was born in Chicago in 1950. And maybe some of you have heard of him. He's the author of 10 books. His latest is called Stranger by Night, Poems, Poems. And his 10th book just came out in February of this year. He's also the president of the Guggenheim Foundation. He's won a lot of many awards, including a MacArthur Fellow. He was named a MacArthur Fellow. And I have to say, I was really lucky to be able to study with him a few times. And what's one of the wonderful things about him is that he does in his poems exactly what he preaches. So that's a really nice thing to see and be a part of. But before I read his actual poem, he wrote a great essay about the writing of poetry. And I just wanted to read one thing, a few sentences about his poetry, his ideas of poetry. And it's taken from an essay that's called What is the Task? So it's quite a long essay, and I'm just going to read you a few sentences. Every couple of years, someone comes along and enthusiastically pronounces that poetry is dead. It is not. On the contrary, it is an art form that continues to live in unexpected ways, engaging and evading its own history, setting out on unknown paths. We live, perhaps we have always lived, in perilous times, and stand on the edge of an abyss which absorbs us. we are called to task. Poetry enlarges our experience. It brings us greater consciousness, fuller being. It stands on the side of life, our enthrallment. So how about that for calling the task? What is the task? One more thing about Ed Hirsch is he has a best-selling book, which is very well worth reading, called How to Read a Poem. It's a wonderful book. So I'd like someone to volunteer to read his poem, I Walk Out of the Cemetery. Do I have a volunteer? Oh, I see. Roberta. But you're muted.
Okay, she's not now. Yeah.
Okay. I walked out of the cemetery. I put down my prayer book and sifted through a wave of fresh mourners gathering at a nearby grave. I didn't stop to ask who died. I didn't wait for the 8 pallbearers lurching toward us with a casket in their hands. I didn't even pause to wonder about a young woman lifting her veil and applying lipstick under a long-limbed sycamore by the side of the road. For once, I didn't look back. The dying goes on. It never stops. There was a new procession of black sedans winding down the lane, but I didn't hesitate to step around them on my mission to leave these hallowed grounds. I felt so liberated. I couldn't help waving to a group of teenagers blasting music and drinking beer in the parking lot behind the chapel.
So it's a very unusual perspective, right? It's not what you were expecting. There's just these, if someone would like to comment, but I wanted to just hover in on the long-limbed sycamore by the side of the road. You know, that's these details that he sees in the cemetery against, you know, very, very different images, 8 pallbearers and you know, it's and the word, I felt so liberated. It's just a very unusual perspective. Would anyone like to comment?
I think he's so glad to be avoiding death that he's on this side of the grass, and leaving all this death behind. He sees life in all its exuberance with the music and beer and children, not children, but teenagers, whomever they are. So he's leaving death behind and he's happy to be alive.
Right.
Hi, I'm Rosa. So I agree, this is going back into life, but we don't know why the person was in the cemetery in the first place. That to me was interesting. There doesn't seem to be any sadness or bitterness. We don't know how long the person that he went to visit has been dead. He is saying life does go on, and that's where he's at. Right.
It's kind of, in a strange way, it's a happy poem. You know, it's a force of life poem. Like, you know, exactly like Sandy's saying, he's happy to be walking out. You could even say it's a selfish poem in the best way. If no one has more comments, I see a chat. Someone is saying something. Hold on.
Can I briefly mention also?
Yes.
In my rabbinate, I've seen that 2 of the places that people can feel most uncomfortable if they're not used to it, which is 2 places that as a rabbi you often find yourself, are hospitals and cemeteries. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling for many to be at a cemetery. So I feel like some of that is seen in this, that it's not a place people want to go visit necessarily. So it's this discomfort that comes along with having to be there. And it's not like you might go to not anymore, but we used to go to like, there's always a definite reason why you go to a cemetery. And it's never really a positive one. It's like I once worked in a hospital that the only floor that they had pediatrics on was for pediatric neurosurgery. And I realized that there was no happy reason for people to go to the hospital. Like you go to a hospital for like a maternity ward, there's someplace happy. So like the cemetery isn't a happy place. So to have a life of like a sycamore tree that actually is growing, it's like the antithesis of it.
Right. And you know, when this is in his new book, and it's just startling, you know, to especially with what the rabbi just said and all of our experiences, you know, at the gravesite. So, well, I have a very different kind of poem coming up, and this is the longest poem that I chose, by Deborah Garrison, and she's, you know, one of the younger poets that I chose. She's born in 1965, and I believe she's still a poetry editor at Knopf, and she has two books, maybe more at this point. One called A Working Girl, and the second one is called The Second Child. So this is I believe it's a two-pager. So we can split it up, or one person can read it. Do I have a volunteer? Roberta, go ahead.
No, Roberta just read one. We have a few other ladies that raised their hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Corinne and Dina, do you want to split it?
Okay, so I don't mind starting.
Okay.
Telephone years. There are gestures that have been lost. One was picking up a desk phone, using a couple of fingers to snag it under the little shelf where the receiver rested when it was not in use. You'd carry the phone with you if you needed to pace, perhaps with a studied restlessness that felt good. You were removing a solid object from its position, and that had meaning. You gestured with it in hand, or held it up against your hip, something both possessive and devil-may-care in it. The disruption of a ring, the caller unknown, was one of the day's small dramas. We lived for them. There were hours unaccounted for, pages turned, ticking of the heart between rings. A feminine variant was to wear the curling receiver cords sashed across your waist, over the elbow, up the arm, so the curls were stretched long, the receiver tight tucked in the neck hollow and pinned to its job. To speak and to hear, companion of both mouth and ear, maybe standing while talking at a window, a light pleasure in the binding, an intimacy with the subject or the person listening that he couldn't see. And the pauses where neither of you spoke were alive, space-filling, somehow physical. You could hear rooms. Conversations were rooted in them. They didn't move around. You knew there was life in another house. Doors slammed, supper bells, doorbells, messages scratched on pads, handwriting that told people who left rooms and never came back. People who might surprise you, come from so far there was no phoning them. I don't mean that life was better then, but our conversations were theatre. Farewell until you didn't know when.
Great. So Corinne, how was it reading it, and did it bring back memories?
Absolutely, and especially with the phone balanced on your ear. You know, we all like had sore necks because we all did that, and you did this while you were multitasking and doing something else, and it really resonates.
Right. And
Yeah.
the cord.
Yeah, I was going to say that it feels now that we're liberated, we only have to hold this little thing in our hand and that's it. So in a sense, we're liberated, but the poem is a reminiscence of what was, and as if that was better than speaking on this little phone now, isn't it?
Right. And yes, and I love the romance she's implying in the phone with its wires and, you know, the secretive calls and
There's almost like I don't know if I can call it sexiness. I don't know what it is, what the word I want in this poem.
Yes, the allure.
Yes, that's the word. There's something about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Allure.
Yeah. And for your own poems, I love the idea of writing about an object. And look how far she went with that. So that's something to think about with your own, just to focus on an object, and see what happens with that. Yeah, and also the number of verbs here is just wonderful. You know, you think about poetry and descriptives, you know, adjectives, but it's really the verbs that make poems come alive. And this is really quite, she goes for it.
But there was also the two things about the phone. I have one house phone in this house that's wired, and so there's a dance to how you hold these anymore because we don't. But the waiting for that bell to ring, that surprise, now because your phone goes with you to the bathroom, to the supermarket, goes everywhere with you, there's no surprise left. You know who's on the call because you can see. They're
Right.
always accessible if you want to be or not. And so this was like the unknown of the day. If the phone rings, who was on it? Now there's like no unknown. It just, so there was a nostalgic piece to me that you waited for the phone to ring. Who's on it? What was that relationship? How is that going to affect your life? Now there's just every minute, every second, no matter where you are, it's, you know, connected to you. And I think this is a nostalgic, and also just the way she describes the phone itself, that dance that you had to do to use that phone, I think is interesting.
Yeah.
I think the chord really brought back to mind for me being a teenager in a house with one phone and trying to stretch that cord as far as you could to get some privacy.
And the good thing was you couldn't see who was talking on the other end. Because some of the things that came to my front door just was when I couldn't see.
Right.
Yeah.
The you know, there's that romance or that sexiness of unknowing. You know, you didn't really know what was until you picked up the call, who it was, and then also what was going on in the other person's house that you were speaking to. All the unknowns that she so wonderfully hints at and brings to the poem.
You know, it is really nostalgic in the sense that nowadays there are so many robocalls, so many unsolicited things that I don't answer the phone if I don't know who's calling. I said, if they really wanted to talk to me, they will leave me a message. So the entire life has changed so much from what is described here. So it's nice to reminisce, but today's world is completely different.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you don't expect that, you don't want that call.
Right.
It's
This is
true.
another reason why poetry is so important. Someone was going to say something. I can't see the whole. Was someone going to say something?
Andy Barenbaum.
Yes.
I was going to say it's true. Like it was said before, we look forward to phone calls, like Margie said, and who was at the other end, a surprise. Now we have caller ID, and sometimes we hesitate answering the phone, so it's not a pleasure like it was years ago. So in a sense, progress hasn't made our lives better at times. It's made them more complicated.
Correct.
Yes. Yes.
And I remember the phone ringing and you dashed, you ran to the phone. Now
Yeah.
you don't because you've got it in your hand.
Right. Right. And so many, many people don't have landlines anymore. This is a thing of the past in many, many ways. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to be sure we have time for your poems. And I'm going to bring up the next one. Maybe some of you have heard of him. Also a younger poet, Elia Kaminski. He was born in Odessa in 1977. And he lost most of his hearing at age 4. And so he was deaf for, most of his childhood, and he came to the United States in 1993, and emigrated to the U.S. And his father died in '94, very soon after he came here, and he started writing poems in English. And his latest book, Deaf Republic, is it's been winning all kinds of awards. It's kind of a parable. And it has some sign language in it throughout the book. I highly recommend it. It's a very different kind of poetry and extremely relevant to what is happening today. In our country. So who would like to read?
Dina, we were up to Dina.
I can read.
We're here.
I
Okay.
can read. Dottie.
We lived happily during the war. And when they bombed other people's houses, we protested, but not enough. We opposed them, but not enough. I was in my bed. Around my bed, America was falling, invisible house by invisible house by invisible house. I took a chair outside and watched the sun. In the 6 months of a disastrous reign in the house of money, in the street of money, in the city of money, in the country of money, our great country of money, we, forgive us, lived happily during the war.
So what do you think about that, Dina?
What do I think about it? I think that it's like us watching television. I never know whether I'm actually watching something that's real or something that's made up. You see, my television, especially now, goes 24/7 practically. And whatever's on, either it puts me to sleep or I watch it. But unless it's a show that I know, I'm not sure whether what I'm watching is real or whether it's made up. And it's the same thing here when she talks, especially when she talks about money, that if we have it, we're happy. Of course, if we don't have it, we're not so happy.
I have a different perspective on this. I think that Coming from Russia with all the pogroms that happened there, they come to America, and no matter what happens, they are grateful to be here, regardless if they have money or not. They're just happy to be here under any circumstance.
Yeah.
Well, I like that the we could be we, all of us, or we immigrants. You don't know, because you don't know if the writer is an immigrant unless you know the writer. I thought this was about everything from 1991 on in a very concise bomb of a poem.
Right.
I felt the part about the money was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, not sarcastic, but a little bit satirical. That's how it came across to me. Money, money, money. It's like all we think about is money.
Yeah, I think it's Russian English, that sense that you have. You can feel the Russianness underneath this in the words and in the space. I loved how much space he gave each line.
Each line, yes. I'm glad you noticed that, because that's something we didn't talk about last week, about the physical space of on the page and what that can do to your poem. I think what he's doing here is really effective, this space. You know, it gives us time to think of, you know, imagine, and also because there are less words on a line, their impact is greater. So I definitely think there's sarcasm here, a lot of it. You know, I wasn't sure whether to bring this poem or not, to show this poem, because the book Deaf Republic, this book, it's very much a whole. You know, poems can stand on their own, but their impact is so much greater if you read the book in its entirety. So I recommend it, and it feels so relevant to right now.
Yes, and just a quick comment, and it is that as a Rabbi Wolpe in Los Angeles has said, that people connect with things or react to things when they're close to home, and when they're far away. You know, if a person is hungry in the city of LA, you talk about homelessness, but if somebody is hungry in Africa, you don't think about it. And here he says, we protested. They bombed other people's houses, but we protested, but not enough. So when things are far away, you don't care so much about them. So that's what I got from the beginning of it.
Yes, yes.
I looked at it from a totally different perspective. I guess when it started out, it just reminded me of, like, during World War II, that that we were isolationists, and that, you know, we were far away, especially England, you know, during the Blitz, when they were being bombed, but it didn't relate to us. We weren't in the war, and, you know, we were in our own houses and far away until it actually struck with Pearl Harbor, and then we were in the war, and it was a totally different situation. And then you could look at it also like in the Vietnam War, that there were people that, you know, like you said, we watched it on television and what was going on, and it was far away, and there were protests about it. But, you know, those of us that are here and we're isolated and we're not actually feeling it, or didn't have someone that was there, or someone of that age group that was involved. I mean, they sort of, all it was like like Dina was saying, it was just like a television program on the news.
Right.
It wasn't really real until something happened in your circle of friends.
I agree with you, Roberta. That's exactly where I was going with this, especially when it says invisible house by invisible house. It's things that we don't see, so it's not real. And unfortunately, with so much media available to us today, some people actually see things that way. They still don't comprehend that there are people on Earth going through things.
Right.
One thing that no one has mentioned yet is I took a chair outside and watched the sun.
I was yeah.
The sun is a physical thing that exists, that can be seen by everyone. I think that line is the center of this poem, because before that, he's talking about either the true people's homes were bombed in World War II and Vietnam and everything else before and after. Or maybe he's talking about when the banks caused people to lose their homes, the underwater thing, they overextended and their homes were repossessed while he stayed comfortably in his home. But then he came outside and he looked at something that was real, the sun. It's there, it's always there. And he realized that this, and he says, disastrous rain in the house of money. But he is living happily during that, and he wants us to forgive him, because he has realized that what was conjecture, TV, or what before he looked at the sun has come to be real to him, and he realizes that he did not understand.
Right. And I'm so glad you focused in on that line, because I feel like that is very much, as you say, the center of the poem. It's just so powerful and so deceivingly simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone had raised their hand and wanted to say something. Who was that?
That was me.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Sorry. Everyone said so many excellent things. I was just thinking it was much more contemporary, though I love all these interpretations, because this is the reader putting themselves in a poem, which is so important that we can do that. But I really thought it really had to do either after the incident in 2001 or after the incident in 2008. Either there was America falling because of bombing the Twin Towers in New York, or was America falling because of the recession after the collapse of the banks in 2008. But either way, it was a disastrous rain in the house of money, in the street of money, in the city of money, in the country of money, our great country of money, which the United States, for Russia and for many other places, has been the great country of money.
Right.
And we've lived happily during the war. And then you can bring it right to today. And here we are in another type of war and in a serious, possibly recession/depression, we don't know yet. But we're still in our own houses, and we're still fortunate enough to be able to be a little bit removed. Though maybe not as much, maybe we should be protesting much more. I don't know.
Yeah. His poems, thank you. And his poems do that to you. They, some poems have different effects, and his poems rile you, and make you question and kind of spin you around a little bit. And so I'm glad it made people really talk and think about now and in the past. I feel that his whole book does that. But oh wow, look at our time. Okay, one more poem and then we'll get to your poems.
And Dottie had wanted to read, so.
Oh, good. Okay. I just want to tell you that Linda Linda Passon was born in 1932 in New York City. And she also, you know, won all major awards and is the author of, I think, about 15 books. So please go ahead and read.
Sure. So why are your poems so dark? Isn't the moon dark too, most of the time? And doesn't the white page seem unfinished without the dark stain of alphabets? When God demanded light, he didn't banish darkness. Instead, he invented ebony and crows and that small mole on your left cheekbone. Or did you mean to ask, why are you so sad? Why are you sad so often? Ask the moon. Ask what it has witnessed. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. First, I just want to point out that the title is a question. And, you know, we had a poem last week in terms of a letter. And here's a poem, you know, with a question. And it's a wonderful setup for the reader. And this is a funny question, you know, I mean, not funny in a dark way, you know, you could hear someone, you know, ask the poem, why are your, why are your poems always so dark and sad? And so this is the response. But I love this because, you know, it's very large, you know, out to the moon, and then it gets very small, like a wide angle, you know, camera, and then very, very honed in on that small mole on your left cheekbone. And look how far she goes, you know, in this short poem.
I just recently saw a letter that I received on email about a teacher who gave her students a piece of paper face down. And then when she told them all to put it face up, she said, write about what's on the paper. And all that was on the paper was a black circle on the white page. And everybody in the class wrote about the black circle, but nobody wrote about the white page.
Ah.
And found that was very interesting when I realized, I guess I would have written about the black circle too. I mean, that's where your eyes focus as opposed to on the actual page.
Right, right. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so to me, I'm very much a student of Torah. So when I read the lines, when God demanded light, he didn't banish darkness. So God, who did he demand light from? God created light. He spoke words and light appeared, was created. So the word demanded is striking to me because that's not what I'm used to. And then it says he invented ebony and crows, which are black. Ebony is a black stone and crows are black birds. So the word invented also is interesting to be used here. God didn't invent. You don't invent things like this. You invent other things, but you don't invent ebony and crows.
I'm curious, Sarah, also, it's Rabbi Wellensfield, if the light is also the concept that the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, the nation of Israel, are Or LaGoyim, that we're the light to other nations. And even if we're the light to other nations, we know that there'll still be darkness. But I was hit by the concept of light and dark also, especially in light of what's going on in our world today, that it seems so dark.
Yes, yes, it's such a different perspective. as was just said, what do you mean that God demanded light? He made, that it's just, it flips things. She flips things, which is really wonderful. And you should try that in your own poems, to turn things upside down and see where it brings you. So, any other comments before we get to our own poems that folks have sent in, which are on this document, and also poems that you can read? Any other comments?
I didn't understand. Why are you sad so often? Or did I miss something? Something important.
I didn't get the punchline either.
Yeah.
I left that out. I was good.
Wait, which one didn't you get?
Why are you so sad? Why are you sad so often? I wasn't clear how that goes with it.
Isn't that because the word dark can be taken literally or figuratively?
I suppose.
Dark meaning dark, or dark meaning gloomy.
Okay.
And I guess I also it goes back for me to the title. Exactly, with the word dark. Well, is it because you're so sad? Is that a connection?
Could be.
No,
I find it ironic because my poem is titled Darkness and Light.
Yeah, you see, this often happens in workshops. People, it happens unbelievably often that words used they're similar, or some people are using the same words in poems. So there you go.
Good segue.
Good segue. Okay, so I put the poems in no particular order, and this is the first one we'll read is by Beth Chernoff. Is she on the call?
I am.
Okay, Beth.
But I need to get to the top.
Okay.
I need to get to the top. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Little Yellow Dress, a sonnet. I need to say that I'm not evolved yet enough to write in free verse, blank verse. So I tried a sonnet. Now I knew a sonnet has to be 14 lines, but I researched the rules and it also has to have 10 syllables per line. So there's different styles. There's Shakespeare sonnet, there's Italian sonnet, AA, like ABBA or ABAB. Mine is the Philadelphia Sonnet. It's AAAA, BBBB, CCDDEE. Okay, it's
great.
My own.
Great.
Address. I fell in love at the very first sight. So lovely, like an embrace of sunlight. Back in my bedroom, resist though I might, I adored trying you on every night. March's first day of spring arrived, and you skillfully shaped a vision, a preview of joys in store for a young woman who longed for her place as an empowered Jew. I can't go any further.
Yeah, here it goes.
There it goes.
Okay. Equal parts delicate, sassy, and sweet, with a graceful gossamer bow replete. You bring elegance to my closet still, as enduring as Wordsworth's daffodil. Although my days of size 5 are long gone, thoughts of the delight you brought still live on.
Wow.
The Wordsworth, now I did research, I'm not a poet, and I learned that Wordsworth's most famous poem is I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, and it's all about daffodils, and I highly recommend you read it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
This is your bat mitzvah dress?
This is my, so So I was thinking maybe my last ending has to be bat mitzvah delights you brought still live on.
I figured it out.
But I thought maybe people would, you know, interpolate, if that's the right word, that it was bat mitzvah. And here is proof of life.
Oh my gosh.
And that, my sisters, is why my
That's
house
great.
looks like it does.
Oh my gosh.
This is really wonderful, and I want to mention that Beth sent me a photo of when she was wearing this dress. So I didn't include it here, but that was a great you know, coupling of photo and poem, and the rhyming is just wonderful. And this is, you know, this is your first try at a sonnet. I mean,
Oh my goodness, yes, yes.
goodness. And are you looking in the chats? Fabulous, wonderful.
Yeah, I will do that.
And
I just wanted to say when I called it Little Yellow Dress, 1969, it was quite short. And we had to wear gowns on the BMO on top of our dresses.
that's really wonderful. Really.
I had fun and I learned a lot too.
Oh, good. This is just great, really. And 1969, I mean, like the Sharon Olds of last week, you know, May 1968. You know, you're right there. Maybe you want to add that to the title. Really wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And check the chats. And we will get to other people's poems, even if they have not sent it to me. Okay, we have our next is Rosa Berman Reuter. Is she on the call?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, it's you.
Yes,
Ah,
Rosa.
okay.
Okay. So, so this is a remembrance. You had one of the prompts you gave was about a room in the place where you were growing up. So this is a remembrance of a time when I was growing up. So summertime, I open my front door early in the morning. The sun is out and the breeze is pleasant. The flowers are blooming and I hear birds chirping. The cool breeze and the radiant day transport me back to my childhood days when we spent summers at our beach house. In the mornings, I put on my bathing suit and I had to cover my head, but not sunscreen. We didn't know about it in those days. And I would get sunburned like a red tomato because the towel that my mother would put around my shoulders would fall off as my sister and I walked a couple of blocks to the warm and sandy beach with translucent crystalline blue water gently lapping at our feet, and we would keep walking further into the gentle waves and splashed and swam until we were cold. It was time to return home for our afternoon nap, and in the late afternoon, I would meet with my friends on the porch and sit on the ground, unbothered by lots of tiny frogs that would come out to play after brief bursts of rain that happen in the afternoons on tropical islands, and would conjure up stories we were going to present to our families in the evening of my birthday party. I was turning 10 years old. How exciting. I couldn't wait to see all my friends and to have cake and my favorite ice cream, coco glacé, very white, creamy, delicious in a half coconut shell. Those were the days that bring joy to my heart. I have searched for beaches like that all my life, not Hawaii, nor the Mediterranean, nor Padre Island. Miami is the closest, but it's still not home.
Oh, wow. Wow, beautiful.
So we for 3 summers, when I was growing up, my parents would rent a house at the beach, about 1 hour's drive from Havana. This is on the north coast of Cuba. I purposefully did not put the name of the place where I was born, but I thought I gave a hint by saying that Miami is the closest, but it's still not home.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so it's a remembrance. It's and it just came out of me like in an hour. I wrote this.
Wow, wow. No, it's really beautiful, really beautiful. And I would say that that last line is a real killer. You know, you just, it's very powerful, but it is still not home. You know, and I love the coco glacé, you know, the specificity. It's wonderful, really, really. And you should check the chats. People are enjoying it. Oh, Rabbi Ellen, yeah.
As we're reading these, if people could think, and if you can write to me, where you've been thinking about what our next issue of New Outlook is going to be. And I'm curious if the people on this call who have written, if you would give us permission, you don't have to tell me here, to publish your poems. And if you have a picture to go along with it, also a short bio, to just think about if we can, to really share it with all of our membership, the beautiful poetry. And I feel like we could do a retrospective of the New Outlook of what we've all been doing during the pandemic and how our community of Women's League has come together. So just an idea for everyone. I'm loving the poetry. I'll be quiet now.
What is your email, Ellen? Maybe you can give us your email.
Okay. Or I'll give it to you, and also you can write to Sarah, because she'll be putting the New Outlook together, because my email is very long, but I'm putting it in the chat, both of our emails.
Both are yours. And I really want to be sure people have a chance to read their poems. Oh, here we are. Is Margie Miller on the call?
Yeah, this is a more tortured poem than some of the others. I wrote to Sarah and said, thank you for a therapy session that I didn't have to pay for. I don't go, but after this, you'll realize maybe I should. So it was a place in our home. So I called it, out of lack of anything else, Pink Bedroom. Definitely not a happy poem. I'll give you a heads up. Hands clenched to brass bars, head buried in the pillow. Oh, antique bed, did other girls seek your refuge? Butterflies affix the ceiling, named friends, listening to the turmoil, silently offering consolation. This place where meanness lived, yet a room of comfort, where else to hide, nowhere else to go. Soft pink angelic space, all fools the eye, nostalgic for its beauty, still running from its pain.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
There were no comments. It's okay.
No.
Margie, this is so it's quizzical. It's what is this I mean, do you want to go into this? Is this sexual abuse?
I had written originally this place of cruelty, and it is my bedroom. I didn't want anyone to think I was sexually abused, but I was an abused kid. And that's where the beatings happened. But I had nowhere else to go in the house, so that was my sanctuary in the middle of all the turmoil. And I had an antique brass bed that you literally would cry. And I don't know if you know brass beds, you hold on to the almost like you're in a jail, like the headboard, footboard. So I'd hold on to those rings. I put my head in the pillow so my mother wouldn't hear the screaming, the crying after she beat me. And I had butterflies all over my ceiling, and I named them and I talked to them because I had no one else to go to. And so it was nowhere else to hide where the bad stuff happened anyway.
It's such a dichotomy because, it sounds like a beautiful bedroom.
It was.
Visually.
Yes.
And yet, this is deep.
Well, I thank Sarah for the therapy. I saw, yeah.
And
It was a
you know,
beautiful bedroom. I had an antique roll top desk and a brass bed and just a fabulous brass chandelier that was an antique as well. And it was a really beautiful room, but a lot of bad stuff happened there.
You know what? All the comforts of life doesn't give love. And that's what you needed.
It's beautiful. It truly reminds me of the comedian that goes to the therapist and says that he's the most depressed person, and then the therapist says you should go listen to this person, and he's like, I am that person. So we can't judge from the outside what's going on inside. Very brave of our president to write this. It was amazing. I'm almost in tears here.
yes. And, you know, what I always say in my workshops is that and anything can become a poem, right? I mean, some of the poems that I brought in, you know, to show you were not butterflies, you know, they were very painful. And the thing is that it has to work on the page, you know, it has to work on the page, and this does, you know, it works on the page, and the content of it, you know, like the other poems we've read, it has to hold together as a poem, and let all of us bring our own experiences to this, and you've done that.
And I cut out so many words at the beginning when I wrote it first, and then I went back and I said something about, did other girls before you? There was an antique bed, and I didn't know if people had put in before me. And then I said, but it's implied. If it's an antique bed, there were other girls sleeping in it before I ever got to it.
Right.
So,
yeah,
you know,
that's
I wanted
profound.
you know, so I took it out and said, there had to be some, I'll figure it out without all those words.
Margie, too, maybe because it was an antique bed, the people who slept in that bed offered comfort.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
You have to tell me that now. I didn't know that then. The butterflies were my comfort. The only friends I had. Butterflies.
Well, thank you. And now we are going to Irene Saban.
Quick shout out to all my fellow writers from North Suburban Bethel. Okay. Old furs. I slept under my grandmother's coat, sealskin purchased after the war. My mother blanketed me in it when I cried for home. I still have the matching hat with the satin bow. I'm the kind of person other people give old furs. I guess it's because I don't judge. Dead animals don't scare or offend me. And maybe I just seem like I'm in need. A friend gifted me 3 foxes once, her mother's, of course. They chased their tails around my neck, their 12 paws a running fringe. My friend said, "These look like they belong on you." What do I look like exactly? A witch? A shaman? A warrior? I wore an ex-boyfriend's mother's shearling through 5 Chicago winters before I got pregnant and the horn buttons popped off. I was a cowboy, herding my sheep dreams down Michigan Avenue. Cold mornings I wear synthetic fleece, moisture wicking, heat retaining, but I stroke the minks and rabbits at the thrift, some bearing the names of the long closed furrier or a former owner. Still soft, tempting even, but I don't want these heavy things.
Ah,
Great.
wonderful.
Could I read my poem after?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I love how this poem takes us on a journey, you know, through the 5 Chicago winters, and I just love the journey. Yeah, and we're right there with you. So, thank you. Oh, it's 3 o'clock, but we
I
have,
would love to read my poem because it's the exact opposite of Margie's. It's a poem of hope.
yes, yes, we are going to get to everybody's. Okay, Roberta. Is Roberta on the call?
I am.
Oh, okay. Oh, and then we'll get to Corinne's.
My poem is an acrostic poem. And what that means is the letter of each line spells out the title. In this case, it's called Sweet Smells of Shabbat. So you can see that it is highlighted, so you can see that's what it spells out. Sense of tradition waft in the air of the warm kitchen, engaging the senses of all who enter our house, eager to partake in the joyous meal, to celebrate the day of rest together. Swirling in the boiling chicken soup are matzo balls and carrots waiting to be consumed. Manischewitz wine fills the room with the perfumed odor of the fruit of the vine. Effervescent bottles of grape juice are ready for the kiddush for the children. Liver, chopped and mixed with schmaltz, awaits our watering mouths. Luxchenkugel, heaped high on the serving platter, entices us. Succulent pieces of chicken tantalize our taste buds. Odors of savory vegetables assail our nostrils. Fragrances of cakes and cookies baking in the oven for dessert tempt our sweet tooth. Seated at the beautifully decorated table, hands wait eagerly to pull apart the soft doughy challah. A pair of white candles are lit with the radiance of the Sabbath Queen. Blessings are said that link us to our Jewish past and present. Bouquets of smells float around us, forever to be remembered in a cornucopia of memories of special nights together spent joyfully around our family table.
Ah,
Wonderful.
wonderful. Very clever. The acrostic, yes. Wow. A Shabbat Shalom poem, really wonderful. Wow. Did it take you a long time to figure out the words that you were gonna use?
Not really, because I find that it's really helpful when you have that first letter, that it starts you off, and it's easier to do, acrostic because you already have the letters. That,
right. Right. Yeah, it's wonderful. Oh, someone wrote you can almost taste and see and smell. Wow. It's really great. I love the variety we're getting. Really nice, really nice. Next, Corinne.
Yeah, and my poem is the opposite of Margie's. It's called Hope. Flowers blowing in the breeze, trees swaying to their own music, watching the flowers do their dance of joy. The sun shines bright in the heavens above. I see people in all their difficulty. When will it all end? Be like the grass, trees, and flowers. Birds flying high in the sacred sky to their family, twig by twig, building their nests, watching their eggs hatching slowly. The ocean roaring and waves breaking on the shore. No worries or struggles as the day turns to night. Stars in the sky, the moon and the planets, they continue on their journey. The ants and the beetles who crawl on the ground, swaying and scurrying and busy, teach us. Smell the roses like the trees dance. Let's sing like the birds and dip our toes in the breaking waves.
Ah, really nice.
Yeah,
really
that's
nice.
hope for now.
Oh, yes, yes. I like that command at the end, to dip our toes.
I have one,
nature
Sarah.
carries on and they with hope, and that's what we need to do.
Yes, yes. I'm sorry, Dottie, did you have a poem?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
This one,
wonderful.
this one is called Two Bedrooms, and I want to give kudos to the composer of My Fair Lady for one part. Being home is second nature to us now. Did this bedroom look as cozy then, before, when the social butterfly I am couldn't wait to depart it, greet the world, and interact, enjoy, see, be, act? But now this bedroom is homey and inviting and soothing, bringing thoughts of a long ago abode, the first bedroom I recall. Tiny, back of house, private, white covered couch, with stuffed animals peeking from many old pillows tossed about, with a mock table, self-made, when money wasn't around, to hold the dear dollies, my besties, for sure. This bedroom feels of home too, one I cared for, cleaning till perfection, when just polio was our scare. Enjoying it into the night, belting songs through window to neighbors' party tunes. Both bedrooms, no, sorry, two bedrooms, two eras, but comforting both. The end.
Ah, nice. You had polio in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would love to see these poems. The people that are reading them will send them to me, and then
Happy to.
How do we send them to you? I don't have an address or anything.
Okay, it's I will type it in the chat. It's media@WLCJ.org.
Oh, that's amazing. It's good to know.
Sarah, I'll read mine. It's very short.
Oh, good.
Judith Reese also had her hand
Yes,
up. So you know.
yes.
Okay, we have Sandy, Marjorie, no, oh, okay. Start with Sandy and then we'll go ahead, Sandy.
This is very short. It's titled Darkness and Light. As a child, darkness was with me. Will the nightmare continue? He whose name I shudder when uttered, brings the darkness. The darkness covered the light. Pharaoh, he is the darkness. He is the plague. Darkness comes to me in memories. Light shall prevail in these dark days. Goodness and kindness will let the light shine through. Darkness cannot consume the light. The moon and the stars, there will always be light.
Oh, that's
very good.
Beautiful. Really beautiful. Thank you.
Mine is sort of fun.
We have, Rabbi has an order, so the next is Judith.
Yes, okay.
And then everyone will be reading, and then Dina. Thank you. Okay, Judith.
Mine is entitled Room with a View. A sunny bedroom on the second floor in a house in East New York, whose walls were covered in dainty pink rosebuds, wrapping around me like a warm hug. Filmy white eyelet curtains, which, when parted, gave me an expansive view of the tall old tree in the backyard that might have been there for 100 years, when all around was farmland belonging to a stately home with pillars still standing at the end of the street. The sparrows on that tree would amuse themselves by depositing blueberry-tinged offerings on the wash hung out to dry on the clothesline. I studied long hours in that lovely room, snug in my corner, and in my foolish youth longed for a life beyond those walls. I didn't know that being in that room with my dreams would be my heart's desire many years in the future. Oh, to go back to that time and to dance and sing once again and play the violin with joyous abandon.
Wow. Wow, I like the specificity, the laundry hanging on the line. See, those kind of details, you know, they bring you right to a moment in time. Now that's come back. People are now hanging their laundry on the line, but I love the specificity. Thank you. And now we are up to Dina.
This is about my favorite room.
Okay.
Television was a big thing in our younger years, sometimes with laughter and sometimes with tears. Each evening was a surprise as to which TV would play. I never knew in advance what baby sister would say. Hiding the TVs from mom was quite a feat. Behind the furniture on walls drawn in color near our feet. Entertainment at its best. I told stories for my sisterly pest. Laughing, crying, a scream or two. I closed the door so mom could not view. That it was almost 4 years until she knew. And then the end.
You've got some internal rhymes there. Yeah, just playful. And it ends on the end. Is that in the poem, the end?
That's it.
That's it. Ah, okay. I like that. Okay, now we have Marjorie.
Okay, my poem is very, very short. It's Apollonian and Dionysian in atmosphere. It's called Chaos and Peace. And it's about a room. My office. My office, a sea of chaos in a peaceful place. Home. Yarn in a bin, whips. Papers in piles sorted. Papers in piles unsorted. Desk in layers of demand, bills to be paid, bills paid to be filed. And yet, lilacs in a vase scenting everything, rug soft under my feet, my most comfortable chair, photos of Josh everywhere I look. My office, a place of peace in a sea of chaos.
Ah, yes, you bring us right back to where we started. Yeah, like a room itself, enclosed. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, I really love the variety here. Really, really something.
Thank you.
Yes. Jamie, then Paula.
This is a little longer poem, and it's a little more complicated. Called Life in Krakow. Jackson, Michigan, terror at 2. Night falls, a vision unfolds. Off a train, I walk into a shower. Mother, aunt, cousin, me. A warm shower? No, gas, not water. Lead falling down my throat, into nothing. My lungs, nothing. I fall into my mother's arms. Nina, Nina, the echo screamed. Silent was my voice. Shabbat Saponiwa Onas, a last cry. Silence. A fan whirls. A door opens. Can we leave now? No. We are dead. Jacob's ladder's golden rays fall down into the chamber. Into the sky it pulls us. Below are the roofs of Auschwitz. Above the whiteness of heaven. Awake. Was this a dream? Terror at night. German soldiers raise their rifles. Fire. A tall uncle falls against the wall, pleading me not to look. Next, his brother-in-law, a short rabbi, falls straight down. Last on the left, Menachem, whispering something to me to live. falls down, sitting on the ground. Awake? Was this a dream? Alone, night, crackle. Why am I here? Following the vision. No map. But I am Nina, and this is my city. So I walk past my cousin's house. I passed a shortcut in Kazimets, that's Jewish quarter. My family synagogue. But how can I be Polish? I wasn't born Polish. How can this be my home? Finally, I walk, a wall. How did I know how to get here? The 3 bullet holes, tall, short, and middle. Standing where I saw it, I wondered, awake? Am I in a dream? How did the nightmare become a dream?
Wow. Wow, very powerful. I was thinking about the refrain. The refrain that was just a dream going through the poem, and how that keeps the reader upright. You know, that refrain. I'm wondering what was the prompt? Was it anything we said last week, or was it something? It was your own. What prompted you to write this? Was it? It wasn't one of my prompts, was it, or is it something you had been working on before?
I wasn't here last week, and I wanted to be. I used to do poetry when I was in community college, and they said write a poem. And I thought, okay, so it was something about my own life experience. So it was very therapeutic writing it. I enjoy poetry. I look forward to many more sessions.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you.
Really. Paula. Is there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I wrote this in 10 tercets, and I guess I thought there was no plan to that, but I was 30 when I was married the first time, so it's 31. It's called I did the piece of clothing.
The clothing, okay.
It hangs in the closet. It hangs in the closet. No distinct era or decade, just a shirt. The collar is frayed, tiny tears and discolorations, but I wear it anyway, unfazed by what others might think. It was ours. He loved camp shirts. He loved all clothes that were timeless and comfortable. He loved clothes. It has a bricky pattern, funny, because he never reacted to anything. His nickname was the Brick. Oddly, we wore the same sized everything, shoes and shirts, pants and coats. He never wore a hat, but I did. We'd look alike when we'd go out casually, not formally, when he in a suit and I in an outfit, but for fun time. Fun was important because he was sad a lot, a hard life. I hope I made it better. I got rid of a lot, but kept a few things. Most of the clothes went, but the shirt. The husband I have now does not care about clothes. That is by design. God would never have done that. New and different things are fun, things my late husband would not have cared for, but we are still together because I get to wear the shirt. And I have it on.
Thank you. I love the humor there in that. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Well, I always said it's interesting that both of them, they, as many ways as they're different, they are alike. And they would have been terrific friends if they'd have known each other. I mean, really terrific friends, but they could not be more different. So.
There's another poem. Wow. I think we are at the end. Everyone has read that brought poems. Is that right? Oh, one more. Jackie? Okay.
Me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mine is written really from an elementary school teacher's point of view, so it's kind of a much lighter poem than a lot of the poems today. So it's called My PJs, and so it's your favorite clothing. My soft pajamas, fleece keeps me warm. They are so comfy and cozy. Can't wait to put them on each evening to watch TV. Oh no, I've got to Zoom. Guess no one will know that my fleece pajamas are on. Oh, so cozy and comfy. Quarantine business on Zoom.
That's great. It reminds me, in this week's New Yorker, there's a whole thing on Zooming. I don't know if anybody's read that piece on, what we see when we're Zooming. And it reminds me of you see people's houses and all the strange things that are going on in them. So that's wonderful. And also Shel Silverstein, you must know. You must know, yeah. Well, so send me your poems. You have my email, and it was really wonderful to work with all of you.
Sarah, can we continue and have other sessions? Or this was fun.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, I'll talk with Rabbi, and we'll hopefully figure out some more sessions. Maybe in the future we'll be in touch. But in the meantime, you've got to keep writing. You got to keep writing.
Lynn, did you want to read a poem or say something before?
Oh, we have.
I don't know. You went.
Me?
Yeah.
I can read can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
I wrote a poem. It's called Sweats. Hey, Sweats, my brother calls me. He loves to tease. He makes fun in a loving way. He is referring to my red sweatpants, my comfortable, soft, easy waist pants. Had I worn them too much? Had I gotten slovenly? Had I become a middle-aged stereotype? What did he see? I look at old photos. I notice how often I'm in them. I also see a much younger face, confident, secure, hopeful, gone like my pants.
Oh.
Sorry to end on that note.
That was good. That was good.
I couldn't fit in the pants anyways, even if they were here.
Yes, the varieties, I keep saying that, but it's really wonderful. All the different voices.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we will be in touch about classes moving forward. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. You're so talented, and so are all of our women. I hope that you will send Sarah your poems, and if you have a picture, a little bio of yourself, if and permission that we could possibly publish it in our new Outlook. Her email is very easy, media@wlcj.org, and I will speak with Sarah. Hopefully she's read my chat, and we'll talk about when we'll have our next session. If she gives me the okay, we can even announce it soon.
You want to give us any prompts? Could you give us some ideas of some other prompts, though, Sarah?
Yes.
You want to,
or we can send them out in the Women's League this week if she's, I don't want to put you on the
Okay,
spot.
fair enough.
So next, the last thing what you wrote to me is yes? Sorry, little conversation.
Yes.
Okay. So same time, same place next week. 2 o'clock next Thursday.
Is it true? We will?
Yeah, we could do, I'm so glad we have interest. So in case this is like an encore, in the theater. I brought prompts in case people were interested.
So she's all prepared. That's awesome.
you know, what I found really fascinating is how some of the poems you could tell the prompts, and others were prompts for other prompts. So I love that. So don't feel, you know, hemmed in by these prompts. So here we go. I'm going to give you 3. You are punished for something you did not do. What didn't you do?
Breathe.
What is the angriest part of your house and why? And the latest you ever stayed up at night, why?
You're going to have 34 poems called, what do you call it when you do it at college? Stay up all night. What do you call that?
Or high school.
Oh, an all-nighter.
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 30 poems called All-Nighter.
Yeah.
Freshman
Love
year.
that.
sophomore
Cram
year.
jam. Yeah, cram jam.
Okay, and I will, I always find it helpful to start a workshop with a few poems that none of us have written, but are, you know, purely subjective on my part to choose, but illustrate something that you might find helpful in your poem. So I'll keep doing that, and I'll bring a few poems to share.
Perfect.
And if you send me your poems before, let's say next Wednesday, which would be the 6th, then I can add it to, you know, my PDF of the poems I'll share. But don't feel pressured. You can always just read them also. Is that clear? So if you would like me to share the PDF of your work, send it to me by, you know, Wednesday evening. And if not, then you read them as we've done.
I just wanted to say that at my synagogue at .rel in California, that we have what's called Multi-Interest Day, which is the longest running Judaic education program in the country. It's been running for like 58 years. And one of the things we have is called Writing from Out of Our Lives. And it's really important, if you can, to write for future generations your story, whether it's through poetry or prose or any way that you can, because it's really important that your family does have those memories. And that's what I saw today. So many memories, you know, that we have, that you would be surprised how interested they or your grandchildren or great-grandchildren will be in your life and how you felt, like the phone and you know, the dress and all those things.
Right, right. How true, how true.
Thank you, Sarah, so much.
All right.
Really.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you.
See you next week, same time.
Bye,
Right.
ladies. Thank you all.
Bye.
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 Bye, Margie. See you
Bye,
in
honey.
30.
See you. I gotta find that next number.
Where are you guys located?
I'm living, you know all of us.
No. I meant like you're an hour time difference, I think.
I'm in Florida right now, but I live in New York. I'm just stuck here.
We're in California.
Where do
We're
you
3
live?
hours.
I'm in Highland Park, Illinois, but I didn't know where this was coming from.
All over. We're all at home. So our executive director, Ella Mullins-Fields, the rabbi lives in Jersey. And here is our new communication gal. She lives in New York. I'm the president of the organization. I live in Long Island, except I'm not physically there. Raisel's right there. Looks like always blue glasses because it's a reflection. She lives in Brookdale, New York, which is just north of Manhattan. And she's our administrative gal in the office, our chief, everything. She's everything. And everybody's different. We got California, we got the Washington area,
Ohio,
and Ohio here. This is a mixed group.
Great.
Beth, what town are you in?
Highland Park, out of Chicago, near Chicago. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Did you say Highland Park?
Highland Park is Lynn.
Yeah.
Highland Park? Oh,
Yeah.
I had a roommate from Highland Park.
You don't recognize her. She's in her jammies and whatever. All right, I have another call soon, ladies. Bye. Thank you.
I'm
Take
from
care.
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, that's it. Thanks. Bye, everybody. Bye,
Bye.
Katie.
Bye.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you to
Kavod.
all. Good. Thank you all for sharing. And if you shared a poem and you're able to want it published in our new Outlook, just give us permission. I don't know how many we'll publish or what we'll do with them, but if we could have them, if you feel comfortable doing that, with like
Absolutely.
one line of your name and what sisterhood you're from, and we can figure out the region. But if you want to write your region, if you have a position in the region. So
Sure.
Wonderful. Good to see everybody. And
Great.
I'll see you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. It was
See you
great.
tomorrow.
Bye.